What's up, everybody? Today we're gonna get into part four of our Switch series, and that is we did Joy Cons. Now we're gonna do Pro controllers. The official Pro controller is good. I like it. It works. Haven't had any issues with it, but just some different options on types of controllers that you can have and use. This wireless Pro game controller. I forgot. There's another company that makes one that looks just like this. I wish I could remember the name of it. I want to say it's Retro Fighter. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I have their official one. This is an unofficial one I saw on Temu for like literally like a fifth of the price of the other one. I think this was like $6 or $7. It's not bad, but it feels like a $6 or $7 controller. Has a turbo function, the home buttons, your plus minus, everything. It works, it connects. I've used it when playing the Super Nintendo games that are off of the store and it's pretty good. As you can tell, it lives inside of its box because I use the other one a whole lot more just because it feels better. The buttons feel better. They don't feel squishy like this one do, but it does work, especially if you're doing the classic arcade games. This controller actually came with one of my Switches that I bought. It's just the Power A controller. It's a wired Pro controller knockoff. It's super light. I mean, Power A makes cheap stuff. They make stuff for every freaking console out there. They have for a very long time. Their first one controller of theirs that I ever owned was actually for my PS3. But the one thing I don't like about this is it's not really a proprietary micro USB cable, but who in the hell is still using micro USB? Get with the times. But it does have a notch in the bottom of it. And there is a notch in the controller, which helps you align this and keep it from going in there wrong. And it does secure it in there good to where it's not going to pull out. I'm just not a fan of that being a micro USB controller. This works, feels just like a regular Pro controller. It's wired. Don't really use wired controllers that often unless I'm in the middle of something and my Pro controller dies. I don't know why I just don't play with my Pro controller plugged into the USB-C port and charging at the same time. But that's here nor there. Our next one we have is this one was the ECHT Power. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but this has an instruction manual that I currently don't have near me, but it is somewhere in here. This one does too. And this is good for Steam Deck. It does Bluetooth. And so pretty much anything with a Bluetooth controller, when you turn it on, there's a combinations of buttons that you hold down that'll switch between like a switch mode, um, PC, Xbox, PS4. There's options to flip these buttons around to where your A and B are now B or A, B instead of A and B. Same thing with the ones up top because the Xbox has a different setup than what Nintendo uses. And also the PS5 has a different, like their setup is their symbols and everything on there. Haven't had an issue with this controller at all. Has a turbo function, much like all of the other ones. It comes on. The color that is flashing on here has everything to do with the way that this is connected. The thing is this is actually currently the green light is the PC setup, and I travel. Thing is, I don't have a Windows laptop. I have a Mac. I have a Windows desktop that I use for gaming. My Mac is what I travel with. I do game on my Mac, but I game mostly streaming through the Xbox service or through emulators. So this has been nice to kind of have and carry with me in my bag. But I actually stopped carrying this one with me. It does have two macro buttons down on the bottom that you can program. Triggers feel all right. I mean, it's designed off of, your Xbox style setup. So it's a little bit wider than the official Nintendo Switch Pro controller, but the one I started carrying with me more often than not has been this Game Sir. The reason why is it came with a case. So when this lives in my bag, I don't have to worry about these getting pushed, buttons getting jammed down, because I have had this one kick on enough that the battery's dead when I go to pull it out. Where this comes in a nice protective case. The thing is this does not, while it fits that way, it will not close just due to the geometry of how this one's designed. And it's the shoulder buttons. These ones are a lot slimmer, and that's why it fits in there. Again, based off the Xbox design, this is a very similar one to how the other one is. Might be kind of hard to see, but the little red light up top, again, this is attached out to my Mac, but it has the different modes for Bluetooth, 2.4, PC, Switch. Everything has options to flip these buttons around depending on the mode that it's in. Charges off a USB-C, just like the other guy does. But it also has a 2.4 gigahertz adapter if your device doesn't have Bluetooth built into it. As far as your computer goes, I think one of the consoles requires that adapter as well. I don't remember. Again, I'd have to find the manual. Manual tells you about all the switching stuff. This does not have a turbo function. The M key down on the bottom has everything to do with switching stuff on here, adjusting the vibration, and everything else. Again, I like this one a little bit better. It is the GameSir, and it's the T4N Lite. They make a couple of different models in that, but I just like it based off of the case. It has fairly decent sticks, haven't had any issues with them, anything like that. It's worked great for me. This travels a lot with me. It has been through some shit, and the case still looks in a fairly good, decent condition. Eventually, I know the hinge up here is going to break just because it is a plastic hinge. So after a while, that opening and closing, I know eventually this will snap on me, and the entire purpose of it being in this case probably going to become a little bit useless on that. Haven't run into that. Again, these are all fairly cheap. Everything up here has been under $20 until we get into this guy. This has replaced the controller I use on my desktop. I used to use just a regular Xbox One controller. And ever since, I have now switched over to this. It has its own little charging base on it. It's USB-C. I don't remember if it came with a USB-C cable. In the bottom little panel here, it has a 2.4 gigahertz adapter. On the bottom is where you have your on-off switch. You have a couple of 4 different memory buttons that you can program macros into. The other thing too is your shoulder buttons. There's a couple of slide switches down on the bottom here that if I push it down, you can see how much farther that now goes down all the way. If I put it there, that is fully engaged. You can change the travel of the switch or of the trigger by 3 different modes on there. It's the same as a lot of the other ones. It has a sliding power switch, a couple of RGB lights on it. I think this also comes in a different, couple different colors. It does have an OLED screen. You hold down the home button, it'll come up, and you have your pairing, your display, and you can change the display brightness, your background colors, your modes on the side. You can have it to where they're on, off, the breathing, and just always on. Use the buttons down on the bottom to switch between the menus. There is a more setting, language, the calibration. You can do joystick, trigger, and motion control. You can check all those in there. button testing. Go through and actually test all of those on there and make sure all of those work. The home, caps, the start. Back button's the only one you can't test because it knocks you back out. Has a fairly decent rumble control. Has a small little help menu with a QR code that you can scan. That'll pull up the manual. Settings. Currently have it on switch. There's configuration 1. You can go into your button layout and you can actually have A equals A. You can turn turbo on and off on them. And switch mode. A equals B, B equals A, Y equals X, just because those are flipped around on the actual switch itself. Your joystick layout, you can set your dead zones, your curves. There's adjustment for those. Your trigger dead zones, how far you want the travel distance between before fully engaged, your vibration intensity, and this thing can get up there. In mode, PC, Android, iOS, Switch. I actually leave it attached to the Switch 1 to connect to my computer. For some reason, it likes that Bluetooth better than the PC because the PC is just based off of the receiver. The Switch goes over the Bluetooth, and all I do is change the config to where these buttons are the other way around. It seems to work just fine. Works on all my Steam games, Xbox Cloud, anything else that I have on there that uses a controller. But I'm a huge fan of this controller. Thing is I mean, in hindsight, it's not really that expensive when you get into the cost of controllers now. It's about $50 to $60. You can pick it up on Amazon or on Temu. The only thing that I kind of don't like about it is this clear acrylic over the top. I know at some point in time it's going to get scratched up and it's not going to look as good as it does now. I was like, but just the charging dock of I don't need another cable sitting across my desk charging. This can sit there when I go to do something, streaming, whatever, pull it out, play, and good to go. Anyways, that's just a couple of third-party Pro Controller style controllers. They all work with the Switch and other things, except for this one. This one sort of does. It'll work with some other things, but it's mostly designed for the Switch. This one's purely for the Switch. These will work phones, PC, Switch, anything really that you can get them attached to. But that's just a couple of the third-party Pro Controller style controllers. And thanks for stopping in. Have a good night, and we'll see you in the next one.